Alright guys, in today's video we have a lot of PlayStation 5 news and information to go over and discuss, so I'm going to jump right into it. The first thing I want to highlight has to do with PlayStation 5 pre-orders, and obviously the situation is very far from ideal and a lot of people are not happy right now. However, I'm going to try my best to find at least a few positive things to take away from this. The first actually comes from Review Tech USA. I saw his most recent video talking about PlayStation 5 pre-orders, and he was saying that it's a possibility that Sony was actually doing it this way on purpose, not necessarily retailers jumping the gun, but only giving us 1 day's notice before they actually went live. We all know that that's not what happened though. And he said they did this to stop scalpers, to stop bots from basically buying up all of the pre-orders at one time. And this actually allows more people to secure a pre-order. People who are actually planning to, play the console and use it the way it was intended and not resell it. So there is that, although still the situation is just not ideal, but there is that. And the other positive is that apparently the PlayStation 5 is breaking pre-order records. So as we all suspected, it's getting off to a really, really good start. This comes from Push Square. They said, you might have noticed already, but PlayStation 5 is proving to be extremely popular. PS5 pre-orders have been going up on a shop-by-shop basis, and everyone's been scrambling to try to secure their console. As we've seen several times over the last few days, however, stock allocations are vanishing within minutes of store pages going live for orders. So fast is the PS5 selling out, in fact, that it's breaking pre-order records at some retailers. Curry's PC World in the UK is one such example. According to a press release, the technology store ran dry of PS5 pre-orders in just 10 minutes online and 4 hours in physical shops, smashing previous records. The retailer is yet to confirm whether it'll be allocated more stock. So again, to me, this is a positive. It's a really good sign that the PS5 is off to an incredibly strong start. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody, but I know that most of us here are big fans of the console gaming experience, more along the lines of the traditional console gaming experience. And we've been hearing for years and years about how consoles are on their way out and they're not going to be a thing in the future. And to see that the demand for console gaming is still stronger than ever, and to see how many people are just so excited to get their hands on the PS5, I think that is certainly a positive we can derive from this. So moving along, we're talking about the PlayStation 5's UI. This is the big thing that Sony has yet to reveal, that surely they're going to have to reveal very soon, and Jim Ryan pretty much confirms that. He talks about the UI briefly and says that there is some really cool stuff to come on that. He was actually speaking to gamesindustry.biz, and Jim Ryan actually had a lot to say, and he did his kind of round of interviews, and so there's a lot more stuff we're going to have to talk about. A lot of it we'll probably cover in the upcoming podcast this Sunday, so be sure to tune into that if you're interested. But this is exactly what he had to say. We haven't shown yet any of the user experience on the PlayStation 5, and there's some really cool stuff to come on that. Now, obviously, that really isn't much to go off of, but he is letting us know that we will be seeing it soon, so we at least have confirmation of that. I mean, it only makes sense. There's only so much time left for them to show it off, but what's even more interesting than that is apparently a patent that was discovered that may give us the first look at the PS5's OS menu. It says here, filed in March 2020 and published on September 17th, the patent shows how selecting a software application from a device's home screen brings up a panel of content icons related to the game. The first panel has a menu enabling players to restart the game, create an event, and edit a party, as spotted by Reset Era user GoFreak. The other panels relate to in-game events, missions, hints, video content, and so on from the selected game. These are said to be context-aware and custom for each user, so they might provide hints to complete the player's current mission, show if any of the player's friends have played the mission, and offer more information about the activity in question. Friends and messages icons appears above the game content panels. A group of close friends can have their thumbnails highlighted alongside activity descriptors, such as if they're online or live streaming. The patent also mentions a dynamic waves background with particle effects, which can highlight certain things and undulate high or low. Oddworld creator Lauren Lanning recently suggested the PS5 will incorporate more social elements traditionally confined to the internet. And so I'm not going to go over that again because we already covered all that, but this is pretty interesting because it really is seemingly the first actual look. Granted, it's just a drawing here, but it is a look nonetheless at what we can expect from the PlayStation 5's UI. And this is a big theme surrounding the PS5's UI. It has to do with how social it's going to be, how a lot of it will be kind of catered to you and show you relevant information. And I'm really excited to see more about the UI. I think that this really is the final piece of the puzzle. We have the hardware, other than the teardown, of course, but we have the hardware. We know what it looks like. We know how much it's going to be. We know when it's releasing. We know all about the controller, all about the specs. We know all about the games. We just need to see now what the UI experience is going to look like. One thing I am waiting to hear confirmed from Sony, if it hasn't been already, as far as I'm aware it hasn't, is whether or not the PS5 is going to offer 4K 60 FPS broadcasting and game recording, because it's been confirmed that the Series X will offer that. I'm assuming the PlayStation 5 will also offer that, but as far as I know, we haven't gotten confirmation of that. But I'm very excited to see the UI, and it really sounds like there is going to be a lot of social features integrated, and I'm going to be interested to see just how relevant they actually are, how big of a difference they actually make into the experience, the overall console or user experience on the console, I should say. There's no doubt that the PS4 has made some huge strides forward, specifically with the share button, some huge innovations, and I suspect that Sony will be pushing to try to double down on that with the PS5. So I don't know whether or not Sony's going to have some type of dedicated event to just the UI, or more than just the UI, but again, we can expect to see it very soon. But to close out this video, I want to highlight something really interesting that Jim Ryan talked about in his round of interviews recently. He talked about the idea of a lower tier PlayStation 5 console, in other words, the Xbox Series S version of the PlayStation 5, and how it was kind of considered, but overall Sony just doesn't believe that's going to ultimately be a successful endeavor for them. And so I just find it very interesting because you can very clearly see just how divergent the two paths are that are being taken here by Microsoft and Sony. So it says, speaking with Japanese website AV Watch as translated by VGC, boss Jim Ryan said the following: "The first thing I would like to say is that I respect every competitor's decision and their philosophies. Clearly, price is a very important factor. We respect other companies' competitive strategies. However, we are fully committed to and believe in our current strategy and the effect it will have." He continued, "One thing that can be said is that if you look at the history of the game business, creating a special, low-priced, reduced-spec console is something that has not had great results in the past. We've considered that option and seen other executives who have attempted this discover how problematic it is. Based on our research, it's clear that people who buy a game console want to continue using it for 4, 5, 6, or even 7 years. They want to believe that they have bought something that is future-proofed and not going to be outdated in 2 to 3 years." So to me, this is not that surprising of a comment from Jim Ryan, but it is still very interesting. He does say that it is something they have considered, but ultimately they decided against it. And I can't say that I see any problem with this. I think that one of the better moves that Sony has made with the PlayStation 5 is, even though they are offering 2 different models, 2 different options at 2 different price points, it is one single specification. And that's ultimately a good thing at the end of the day. There's nothing wrong, I would assume right now, with having 2 different versions of a console, one that's lower spec, one that's higher, as long as they overall have the same architecture and it's not a huge problem for developers. But there's no doubt that having that single specification does, at the end of the day, make things easier for developers as well as consumers, because consumers don't have to, as he says here, worry about whether or not there's the potential of something being outdated. So I think this is Sony just making it very clear that their strategy is very much different and in some ways opposite of Microsoft's, even though we are seeing Sony take some pages out of Microsoft's book. as I said in my previous video, their direction that they're choosing to go in, the paths that they're choosing to go down are very, very different. And this is just another example of that. As I said, Jim Ryan said a lot of really interesting things recently in his interviews, and there's a lot more to go over and discuss. He did talk about Game Pass and how that's just not something Sony's ever really going to do when it comes to their approach to game development and how to, you know, get people to buy their games or engage with their games. So we're going to talk all about that, but I want to end this video here before it gets too long. So let me know your thoughts about everything we talked about down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it or found it informative. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.